She walked into the most important room in the country, wearing shoes held together with a safety pin.
Did she walk here? Because those shoes didn't make it.
Oh my God, look at her.
I know, right? She looks so lost. I give her 20 minutes before they send her back home.
She looks like she got off at the wrong stop.
She walked into the most important room in the country wearing shoes held together with a safety pin. Nobody in that room thought she belonged there. They were wrong. The morning Mia Owens left for her federal civil service interview, her mother was already awake. That wasn't unusual. Her mother was always awake before dawn. She had to be. The houses she cleaned didn't clean themselves, and the families she worked for didn't wait. What was unusual was the silence. Mia sat at the kitchen table, a folding table with one leg shorter than the others, and stared at the envelope in front of her. The letter inside had arrived 3 weeks ago. She had read it so many times the paper had gone soft at the creases. Report for interview. Federal Administrative Service. Washington, D.C. Her mother came in from the kitchen doorway and set down a glass of water. That was all there was to set down. "Today's the day," her mom said. "Yeah. Your dad would have driven you." Mia looked at the water glass. "I know." Her father had died 4 years ago. He'd worked as a school janitor for 19 years. The last thing he ever said to Mia was that she was going to make it somewhere he never could. She didn't know yet how right he was. Mia was 22. She'd grown up in a small town outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the kind of town where the gas station was also the post office. She went to public school. No tutors, no prep courses, no connections. She applied for the federal administrative track on her own, after finding the application online at midnight while her mother slept on the couch because the bedroom window didn't close all the way and the cold came through. Nobody told her to apply. Nobody helped her prepare. Nobody thought she'd make it past the first round. She made it past all of them. The morning of the interview, Mia put on the only blazer she owned. She'd bought it at a Goodwill 3 years ago for a college presentation. The stitching on the left sleeve was starting to separate. She pressed it flat with her palm. Her mom stood in the doorway watching her. "I have $12 left," her mom said quietly. "For the bus." "I know. That's also for the medicine." Mia stopped adjusting her blazer. She turned around. "Mom, take it. I'll figure out the medicine." Her mother pressed the folded bills into her hand and closed her fingers around them. "Don't come back the same person." Mia didn't say anything. If she said anything, she would cry. And she couldn't cry. Not yet. She picked up her bag, a canvas tote with a broken zipper she'd safety pinned shut, and walked out the door. The bus to D.C. took 6 hours. Mia stood for most of it. The seats were full by the time she boarded. She held the overhead bar and watched the highway pass and tried to review what she'd prepared. Policy frameworks, administrative law, public service ethics. 2 girls sat near her, college age, nice clothes. One of them looked Mia up and down and leaned toward the other. "Probably going to D.C. for a job fair," she whispered. They both smiled. Mia turned and looked out the window. She was used to this. She'd been used to it since 4th grade, when she showed up to school picture day in her cousin's hand-me-down dress and the other kids laughed. She'd learned something that day that most people never learn until it's too late. Being laughed at doesn't mean you're wrong. Sometimes it just means you're early. She arrived in D.C. at noon. She had never seen a city this large. The buildings made her feel small in a way that had nothing to do with size. Everything looked intentional here. Expensive. Permanent. She was crossing the street toward the federal building when her left shoe broke. The sole separated at the toe. She stopped in the middle of the crosswalk, looked down, and felt the particular kind of panic that only poor people know. The panic of something breaking when you have no backup plan. She made it to the curb, sat on the edge of a planter, dug through her tote for the small sewing kit her mom had packed without telling her. No needle, but there was a safety pin. She bent over her shoe on a public street in Washington, D.C., while people in suits walked past without slowing down, and pinned her sole back into place. Then she stood up, checked the pin, and kept walking. The federal building lobby was marble and glass and very cold. The candidates waiting in the check-in area were exactly what Mia expected. Blazers that fit, dress shoes that matched, leather portfolios. They spoke to each other in the easy, confident way of people who had grown up knowing they would be here someday. One guy, tall, navy suit, hair that cost money, glanced at Mia and then at her tote bag. "You here for the interview?" he said. Not unkindly, just surprised. "Yes," Mia said. He nodded slowly, like he was processing something that didn't quite compute. A girl near the window whispered to her friend, "Did she walk here?" Quiet laughter. Mia found a seat in the corner. She took out the only thing she'd brought to review, a single index card with 3 bullet points in her own handwriting. She read it once. Then she put it away. She reached into the front pocket of the tote and found what she was really looking for. A photograph. Her father in his janitor uniform, standing in front of the school where he worked. He was smiling like he'd built the place himself. She held it for a moment. Then she put it back. Her name was called third. The interview room was smaller than she'd imagined. A long table. 5 people. Folders open in front of them. A woman in the center seat who hadn't looked up yet. Mia sat down. The woman looked up. Her eyes moved, just briefly, to Mia's blazer sleeve. The separated stitching. Then she looked at Mia's face. "You're Mia Owens?" "Yes, ma'am." "Where did you go to school?" "Public high school. Harrisburg area. Then community college, then state school. No tutors. No test prep." The woman wrote something down. "Your scores on the written exam were the highest in this cohort." The man to her left leaned forward slightly. "Tell us about your background." Mia told them. She didn't dress it up. Her father was a school janitor. Her mother cleaned houses. She'd worked at a grocery store through college. She applied to the federal track because she believed that the people making decisions about poor communities should understand what it actually meant to be poor. "And if you were assigned to administer services in a high-poverty district," the woman said, "what would be your first priority?" "Education and healthcare access," Mia said immediately. "Because poverty isn't a character flaw. It's a resource problem. You fix the pipeline, you fix the cycle." Silence. "You're from that environment yourself," the man said carefully. "Do you think that affects your objectivity?" Mia looked at him. "It affects my accuracy." More silence. A different kind. "What's your greatest strength?" the woman asked. "I don't quit." "And your greatest weakness?" Mia paused. The honest answer. The one she'd almost edited out of her practice runs because it sounded too vulnerable. "My mom," she said. "If she's struggling, I can't focus. She's the only person who can actually break me." Nobody wrote anything down. They just watched her. "And if you don't get this position today, then I apply again," Mia said. "I don't have the option of giving up." The interview lasted 11 minutes. She counted. When she walked out, the guy in the navy suit was still waiting for his turn. He watched her come out. "That was fast," he said. "Yeah," she said. He looked like he felt sorry for her. She didn't correct him. Outside, she sat on a bench near the building and counted what was left of the $12. After the bus home, she'd have enough for one meal. She bought a hot dog from a street cart. The vendor, an older man, maybe 70, slow-moving, handed it to her and said, "Good luck today," without her saying anything about why she was there. She ate it standing up, looking at the building, looking at the flag above the entrance that moved in the wind. Her mom had gone hungry that morning so Mia could have bus fare. Mia stood there with a gas station hot dog in her hand outside a federal building in Washington, D.C., and let herself feel the full weight of that. Then she finished it and threw away the wrapper and walked to the bus stop. She almost didn't make it home that night. The last bus left while she was still 2 blocks away. She ran for it and missed it by 20 seconds. She stood at the empty bus stop as the taillights disappeared and tried to figure out what to do. An older woman was sitting on the bench nearby. She'd watched Mia run. "Where you headed, honey?" Mia told her. "Last bus is gone. Next one's at 5:30 in the morning." The woman scooted over. "Sit down. I've been waiting here since Tuesday. Seems like Mia sat. You had an interview today? The woman asked. Yes, ma'am. Go well. I don't know yet. The woman nodded. That's usually how the real ones go. She took the 5:30 bus. Got home before noon. Her mother was sitting on the front step when the cab dropped her off. She'd borrowed $2 from a neighbor for the last quarter mile because the bus didn't go close enough. Her mom stood up before Mia was even through the gate. How'd it go? I answered everything, Mia said. I don't know if it was enough. Her mom pulled her in, held her for a long time without saying anything. Then, you're enough, whatever they decide. Mia pressed her face into her mom's shoulder and didn't cry. Not yet. She went back to tutoring neighborhood kids for $15 an hour. She went back to helping her mom with the house cleaning clients on weekends. She went back to the folding table with the short leg and the index cards and the late-night reviews of things she'd already memorized. One of the kids she tutored, a 7-year-old named Brixton who wore the same sneakers every day for 8 months, asked her once if she was really going to work for the government. I'm trying, Mia said. My dad says the government doesn't hire people like us. Mia looked at him for a moment. Your dad's wrong, she said. But I understand why he thinks that. Brixton thought about it. What if you don't get it? Then I try again. She tapped his workbook. Problem 4. 6 weeks later, her mom's cough came back worse. It had been there for months. A dry, persistent thing that Mia had been monitoring the way you monitor a warning light on a dashboard when you can't afford to take the car in. Watching it, hoping it stayed the same. It didn't stay the same. One night Mia heard her from the other room. Not just coughing, something worse. She went in and found her mother sitting on the edge of the bed. There was blood on the tissue in her hand. Her mother looked up and immediately tried to hide it. It's nothing. Mom. It's nothing, Mia. It wasn't nothing. The next morning, Mia took her to the county clinic. 3 hours in a plastic chair. A doctor who had 16 patients before noon. Tests scheduled for the following week. On the way home, her mom said, Don't spend money on this. Mia stared out the window. I'm serious. If the letter comes. The letter's not here yet, Mia said. When it comes, promise me you won't let this stop you. Mia didn't promise. She went home and found the one thing her father had left behind. His watch. A cheap digital watch, the kind you get at a pharmacy. But he'd worn it every day for 15 years and Mia had kept it in a shoebox under her bed since the funeral. She sold it the next day for $40. It covered part of the medication her mom needed. Not all of it. Part. She didn't tell her mom where the money came from. The letter arrived on a Thursday. The mail carrier, a man named Doug who had delivered to their street for 11 years, called out from the sidewalk before Mia even got to the door. Mia! Federal envelope. She walked out in her socks. The envelope was stiff. Official. The return address was the federal office address she'd been to 6 weeks ago. Her hands were not steady. Brixton from down the street was playing in his driveway. He saw her and stopped. Is that the letter? She didn't answer. Her mother appeared in the doorway behind her. 3 neighbors had come out of their houses. Nobody spoke. The street was somehow quiet for a Thursday afternoon. Mia opened the envelope. She read the first line. Then she stopped. She read it again. Her hands went completely still. Mia. Her mother's voice. What does it say? Mia couldn't speak for a moment. Her throat had closed. The letter blurred. She looked up. I got it, she said. Came out barely above a whisper. Her mother put both hands over her mouth. Brixton said, She got it! And yelled it down the street to nobody in particular. One neighbor started clapping. Then another. Her mother walked down the front steps and held Mia's face in both hands and looked at her for a long time without saying anything. Then she said, Your father knew. Mia finally cried. But there was a second page. Training to commence in Washington, D.C. in 30 days. Mandatory attendance. 30 days. Her mother's test results were scheduled for day 26. Mia stood in the middle of the street holding the letter and doing the math and feeling the joy drain out of her in real time, replaced by something colder. She couldn't leave before the results. She couldn't miss the start of training without losing the position. Both things were true at the same time, pressing against each other. Her mom read her face. "Go," she said. "Mom, go. I'll call you the second the results come back." "That's not Mia." Her mother held her by the shoulders. Firm, like she used to when Mia was little and scared of something. "I did not spend 20 years making you brave so you could stop now." Neighbors she barely knew pooled together for her train ticket. The same people who had once joked about her applying. The same woman who had told her mom, "Those kinds of dreams don't work out for people like you." She handed over $40 in cash and couldn't look Mia in the eye. Mia took the money. She didn't say anything about it. Some things you don't need to say out loud. The training academy in DC was a different planet. Everyone there had a pedigree. Georgetown, Duke, schools with names that opened doors by themselves. They introduced themselves with their credentials the way some people introduce themselves with their names. When Mia's turn came, she stood up. Mia Owens, public school, community college, state school, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. A guy in the back row. She would later learn his name was Theo, George Washington University. His dad was in the State Department. Leaned over to the person next to him. "Isn't she the one from the article? The girl with the shoes?" The whisper traveled. Mia heard it. She looked directly at Theo. "Yeah," she said, before the trainer could move on. "That's me." The shoes were broken. The interview wasn't. Silence. The training director, a woman named Director Calloway who had never once smiled in the 3 sessions Mia had already observed, smiled. She didn't say anything, just smiled and moved on. The training was brutal. Early mornings, long days, presentations, policy simulations, fieldwork assessments. Everything Mia had never been formally trained for, and everything she instinctively understood in ways others didn't. She struggled with the presentation formats, the formal language, the way everyone expected you to speak in acronyms and frameworks. What she didn't struggle with was understanding what the work was actually for. Her first major class presentation was on rural healthcare access. When she got to the podium, her notes slipped. She grabbed them. Theo coughed from the back. She set the notes down. She didn't look at them again. She talked about her mother, about the county clinic, about 3 hours in a plastic chair, about what it felt like to watch someone you love get sick and not be able to fix it because fixing it cost money you didn't have, about the specific cruelty of a system that made people prove they were poor enough to deserve help. When she finished, the room was so quiet she could hear the air conditioning. Then Director Calloway stood up and started clapping. And everyone followed. Even Theo. Day 26. Mia was sitting in a policy simulation session when her phone buzzed. She'd asked to keep it on for one reason only. It was her mom's neighbor, Donna. "Call me when you can." Not her mom. Donna. Mia stood up, walked out of the room, called. Donna answered on the first ring. "Honey." Her voice was careful. The specific careful that meant something had already happened and she was figuring out how to tell it. "Your mom's at the hospital. They admitted her this morning." Mia's back was against the hallway wall. She slid down until she was sitting on the floor. "How bad?" Donna didn't answer right away. "Donna, you should come home." She got emergency leave for 4 days. She didn't sleep on the train. She sat with her forehead against the cold window and watched the dark countryside pass and tried not to think about her mother's hands holding her face on the front steps. "I did not spend 20 years making you brave so you could stop now." The hospital was 40 minutes from home. She got there at 2 in the morning. Her mother was in the ICU, smaller than she remembered somehow. The tubes, the machines, the specific exhaustion of someone who had been fighting for a long time and was very, very tired. When Mia walked in, her mom opened her eyes. She looked at Mia for a moment. "There she is," she said. Her voice was thin. "My federal officer." Mia sat beside her and took her hand and didn't say anything for a long time. "Mom, don't," her mom said. "Don't do that voice." "What voice?" "The one where you're about to apologize for something that isn't your fault." Mia pressed her lips together. "Your dad's watch," her mom said. Mia looked up. "I knew." Her mom's grip tightened slightly. "I knew what you sold." I didn't say anything because I knew you'd argue. Mia didn't answer. He would have wanted that, her mom said. He would have sold it himself. The machine beside the bed beeped steadily. The sound of someone still here. Go back, her mom said. When the 4 days are up, go back and finish it. I'm not leaving while you're. Yes, you are. Her mom's eyes were clear, completely clear. That's not negotiable. Mia went back. She walked back into the training facility on day 5 with 4 days of sleep deprivation and something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Director Calloway saw it and didn't ask. She just nodded once when Mia walked past her office. 3 days later, Donna called again. This time Mia knew before she answered. Her mother had passed quietly at 4 in the morning. No pain, the nurse said. Just stopped. Mia sat on the floor of her dormitory room at the training facility and stared at the wall for a long time. Outside her window, DC kept moving. Traffic. Voices. The city that never decided to pause for anyone's grief. She held the phone in her lap. She thought about her father's watch. About the folding table with the short leg. About a woman who cleaned other people's houses and went hungry so her daughter could have bus fare. About $12 that was also for medicine. About the way her mom had held her face like Mia was the most important thing she'd ever touched. She sat there until she couldn't anymore. Then she stood up. Graduation day was gray and cold. The candidates assembled on the academy lawn in full dress. Families filled the viewing area. Parents, siblings, partners, all pressed together behind the roped section, waving and taking photos. Mia stood in the 3rd row and looked once at the family section. Just once. Then she looked straight ahead. When they called her name, the director's voice carried clearly across the lawn. Mia Owens, highest written score in cohort, outstanding field assessment, peer recognition for community impact presentation. She walked forward. Director Calloway pinned the badge to her lapel and leaned in slightly. Your mom knew, she said quietly. Whether she saw this or not. Mia kept her face still. She almost made it through. Her first posting was a district office covering 3 rural counties in Pennsylvania. Her home state, 50 miles from the town where she grew up. She drove herself. No ceremony. She parked in front of the district office on a Tuesday morning and sat in the car for a moment. Then she got out. Her first official visit was to the elementary school where her father had worked as a janitor. She had specifically requested it. The principal met her at the entrance. Nervous. Prepared a speech. Mia listened politely, then asked to walk the building. They walked. The gym floor was warped. The library had a leak stain in the ceiling. The computer lab had 12 machines for 400 students. Mia took out her notebook and started writing. I need a full facilities assessment on my desk by Friday, she told the principal's assistant. And I need the district's capital improvement backlog for the last 6 years. Of course, Ms. Owens. Is there anything specific you're looking for? Mia looked at the water stain on the ceiling, at the folding chairs in the hallway, at a bulletin board covered in student artwork, bright and careful, and completely unbothered by the building falling apart around it. I'm looking for everything that got put off, she said. Every fix that someone decided could wait. Things started changing. Slowly, then faster. New roofing contracts. A reading program. A healthcare access initiative that got 3 mobile clinics into districts that had been waiting for them for 11 years. She wasn't popular with everyone. Change isn't popular with everyone. But she was present. She showed up to town halls. She took meetings with people who had no appointments and no connections. She answered emails herself. One afternoon, a man came to her office. Older. He walked slowly. She recognized him before he said a word. The hot dog vendor from outside the federal building in DC 2 years ago. She didn't know how he'd found her. I read the article, he said. The local paper had done a piece on her. I wanted to see for myself. Mia stood up from her desk. She walked around it. She shook his hand with both of hers and said, "Thank you for the good luck." He laughed. Then he cried a little. Then he laughed about crying. She walked him out herself. That evening, she drove to her mother's house. It was hers now. She hadn't changed much. The folding table was still there, still lopsided. The bedroom window still didn't close all the way. She sat on the front step where her mother used to sit and wait. The neighborhood was quiet. Brixton's house had a light on. Down the street, someone was grilling. The air smelled like summer. Mia looked up at the sky, pale orange going dark at the edges. She thought about a woman who had gotten up before dawn every day of her life, who had cleaned strangers' bathrooms and never once complained about it in front of her daughter, who had pressed $12 into a girl's hand and said, "Don't come back the same person." She thought about all the people who had watched her sit on a curb with a broken shoe and done nothing, about the bus she'd missed and the old woman who'd scooted over on a bench, about Theo in the back row whispering, about Director Calloway smiling, about a janitor in a school-issued uniform, standing in front of a building he helped keep standing, smiling like he'd built it himself. She sat with all of it. Then she said, quietly, to no one and everyone, "They can tear the clothes. They can't tear the dream." The street lamp flickered on. She stayed a little longer. Then she went inside.